Hello friends, welcome back to the channel again. We've been trying to answer the question if God really exists. Last week I told you two things that we have evidence for the existence of God. And today let's talk about science. Science means knowledge. The very knowledge itself comes from God because we know that we are created in the image of God. Science is good, but it can never replace God. Let's talk about some benefits of science. Over the years, science has improved so much to explain how the human body functions, how animals function, climatic changes, and so on. Science has also paved a way for discoveries. The vast universe and our galaxies, the tiniest living creatures, that we are able to understand them better. Technology today is changing the way our world works. For example, we work from home, we have virtual meetings, conferences, and we have artificial intelligence now. Man has benefited a lot through science, but has science explain everything, or can science explain everything 100%? Not at all. And there are few limitations of science. Science talks about many things in theories, derivations, calculations, and laws. Let's talk about one example. Why is the sky blue? The scientific answer to this question is a law which states that scattering of light is inversely proportional to its wavelength. So light of lesser wavelengths scatter more than larger wavelengths. Since blue has the least wavelength in the visible spectrum, it scatters the most, and therefore the sky appears blue to us. Why should this law always hold good? Agreed that the light follows its particular law, but why should it be true at all times? Have we answered the question how and not why? Let's talk about one more example, the gravity. So we know that if you throw a stone or a ball on the air, it always comes back. We say it's gravity. Sir Isaac Newton, who also known to believe the existence of God, has come up with a formula and theory to explain this phenomenon. Why should an object come back to earth at all times? Imagine if you just throw something and if it just floats in the air, and what will happen? So you'll just be having some millions of objects floating in the air by now. Why should that particular law should continue to happen at all times without fail? Another example is the galaxies, the Milky Way that we see. The Mars does not come and hit the earth, and moon never falls on the earth. We have all the possible explanations as how. But why do these planets always maintain their paths in their orbit at all times? No answer. No answer. We have so many personality types among human beings. Each person responds differently to our circumstances. Emotions, patience, frustrations, and anger. If someone is faced with a similar situation, one person might respond with anger, another person might respond with ignorance. So it depends on a person to person. How do we explain that? Take for example even Corona. We don't know where this Corona came from and why is it so infectious. Medical sciences has not come up with a cure or vaccine yet, and there are so many challenges in producing a vaccine for Corona. And lastly, let's talk about life. Science has explained how we reproduce and how the reproduction happens, but it can never tell us why we should be reproducing or what is the purpose of our existence. Most importantly, where does life come from? We are creating test tube babies, cloned animals, and human beings. We are doing stem cell therapy to create hands and legs and to treat many other diseases. But for all this, we need a cell to begin with. So did science alone create or start a new life without a primary cell, a source of life? No. Science or scientists have never invented life so far. Another example, take a seed. As long as it remains on the table, lies on the table, it's an inanimate object. But when it's put under the soil and when it's watered, it germinates and gives a new life. And again, human beings, as long as these two cells, sperm and ovum, remain in the bodies of men and women, nothing happens. But when it comes together, it forms a new life. So who gives a life? And who is the author of life? So it is God is the author of life. So science can never ever eliminate God. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.